Well, hello, everybody. Let's see here.
Good morning.
Sounds like the
everybody.
movie's
Good morning.
good. Morning, Adriana.
Hi, my love. How are you?
Great. Super duper. Hopefully you're still cuddled up with Vera.
Yes, I am.
Hello.
Hey, Papa.
Give Vera a special kiss just for me. All right. You can't do it.
All right. Looks like everything is set up and running.
Morning.
Hey there, Tom.
Hello.
Tamara, there is another Tamara who has come in last few days.
It's
I
true.
don't know that you here when she's here. I was wondering whether
Maybe.
it was an alternate ID or something.
From the description, it looked like a totally different person.
Yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, it was a different. There wasn't any question. I was just making a silly joke. There's only one you, Tamara. And we know that and love it too. Good morning.
Today's lesson is workbook lesson 31. No one can fail who asks to reach the truth. And looks like everything's working. So off we go to the book. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. Failure is all about you. While you seek for your ego's goals that cannot be achieved. You look for permanence in the impermanent, for love where there is none, for safety in the midst of danger, immortality within the darkness of the dream of death. Who could succeed where contradiction is the setting of his searching, and the unreal the place to which he comes to find stability? Goals that are meaningless are not attained. There's no way to reach meaningless goals, for the means by which you strive for meaningless goals are meaningless as the egoic goals are. Who can use such senseless means and hope through those senseless means to gain anything? Where can the senseless means lead? And what could senseless means achieve that offers any hope of being real? Pursuit of imagined leads to death, because it's the search for nothingness. And while your ego claims to seek for life, you ask for death. You look for safety and security, while in your heart you actually pray for danger and protection for the ego's little dream you made. Yet, searching is inevitable. here in the unreal world of time and space, for this searching is what you came for, and you will surely do the thing you came for. But the world cannot dictate the goal for which you search, unless you give the world of your imagination the power to do so. Otherwise, you are still free to choose a goal that lies beyond the world you imagine, and every worldly thought of your little s self, and you are still free to choose a goal that comes to you from an idea relinquished yet remembered by your higher self, an idea old yet new, an echo of a heritage forgot, yet holding everything you really want. Pardon my pause here. Be glad that search you must. Be glad as well to learn you search for heaven and must find the goal of heaven that you really want. Be glad that no one can fail to want this goal of heaven and not reach it in the end. God's Son cannot seek vainly for heaven through the split-minded Son can try to force, delay, and deceive himself and think that it is hell the split-minded seek. When the split-minded Son is wrong, he finds correction. When the split-minded Son wanders off, he is led back to his appointed task of remembering and finding heaven. No one remains in hell, for no one can abandon his Creator, nor affect his Creator's perfect, timeless, and unchanging love. You will find heaven. Everything you seek but heaven will fall away. Yet not because the unreal egoic world of time has been taken from you. It will go because you do not want the dream of separation. You will reach the goal of heaven that you really want as certainly as God created you in sinlessness. Why wait for heaven? Heaven is here today. Time is the great illusion that heaven is in the past or in the future. Yet this illusion that heaven is not here in the present cannot be if heaven is where God wills his Son to be. How could the will of God be in the past or yet to happen? What God wills is now, without a past and wholly futureless. What God wills is as far removed from time as is a tiny candle from a distant star, or what your split mind's little s self chose from what you, your higher self, really want. Heaven remains your one alternative to this strange egoic world you made and all its ways, its shifting patterns and uncertain goals, its painful pleasures, and the tragic joys your ego imagines this world offers. God made no contradictions to heaven. What denies its own true existence, which is your split mind, and it attacks itself, is not of God. God did not make two minds, with heaven as the glad effect of your higher self. Shoot. I lost my spot. Darn it. Heaven remains your one alternative to this strange egoic world you made and all its ways, its shifting patterns, its uncertain goals, its painful pleasures, and the tragic joys your ego imagines this world offers. God made no contradictions to heaven. What denies its own true existence, which is your split mind, and attacks itself, is not of God. God did not make two minds, with heaven as the glad effect of your higher self and earth the little less self-sorry outcome, which is heaven's opposite in every way. God does not suffer conflict, nor is God's creation split in two. How could it be that God's Son could be in hell when God himself established his Son in heaven? Could God's Son lose what the eternal will of God has given his Son to be his Son's home forever? Let us not try longer to impose an alien will upon God's single purpose. God's Son is here in heaven because God wills it to be, and what God wills is present now, beyond the reach of time. Today, we will not choose a paradox of time in place of the truth. How could the Son of God make time to take away the will of God? With the illusion of time, God's Son thus denies himself and contradicts what has no opposite. God's Son thinks he made hell, opposing heaven, and believes that he abides in the illusion of time that does not exist, while heaven is the place he cannot find. Leave foolish thoughts like these egoic illusions that you can change God's will behind today, and turn your mind to true ideas instead. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth, and it is truth we seek to reach today. 3 times today, we will devote 10 minutes to this goal of seeking the truth, and we will ask to see the rising of the real world to replace the foolish images that our little s self, our egoic self, holds dear, with true ideas arising in the place of egoic thoughts that have no meaning, no effect, and neither source nor substance here in the truth. The idea that no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth is what we acknowledge as we start upon our practice periods. Begin with this. I ask to seek a different world and think a different kind of thought from those my split egoic mind made. The world of heaven that I seek, I did not make alone. The real thoughts I want to think are not my own thoughts of my little s self, but rather the shared thoughts I think with the mind of God. For several minutes, watch your mind and see, although your eyes are closed, the ego's senseless world you think is real. Review the thoughts as well, which are compatible with such an unreal egoic world, and which you think are true. Then let your egoic thoughts go, and sink below them to the holy place where they can enter not. There is a door beneath them in your mind, which you could not completely lock to hide what lies beyond your egoic thoughts. Seek for that door that lies beyond your egoic thoughts and find it. But before you try to open that door that leads to truth, remind yourself, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. And it is this request that no one fails who seeks to reach the truth you make today. Nothing but this has any meaning now. No other goal is valued now nor sought. Nothing before this door you really want, and only the truth that lies past your egoic thoughts do you seek. Put out your hand and see how easily the door for truth swings open with your one intent to go beyond your egoic thoughts and find that truth. Angels light the way so that all darkness vanishes, and you are standing in a light so bright and clear that you can understand all things you see. A tiny moment of surprise perhaps will make you pause before you realize the world you see before you in the light reflects the truth you knew and did not quite forget in wandering away in egoic dreams of lack, limitation, and separation. You cannot fail today. There walks with you the Holy Spirit heaven sent you, that you might approach this door to truth someday, and through the Holy Spirit's aid, slip effortlessly past your egoic thoughts into the light. Effortlessly. It's a hard word to pronounce. Today, that light has come. Today, God keeps his ancient promise to his holy Son, as does his Son remember his promise to return to God the Father. This is a day of gladness, for we come to the appointed time and place where you will find the goal of all your searching here and all the seeking of the world, which end together as you pass beyond the door to truth. Remember often that today should be a time of special gladness, and refrain from dismal thoughts and meaningless egoic laments. Salvation's time has come. Today is set by heaven itself to be a time of grace for you and for the world. If you forget this happy fact, remind yourself with this. Today I seek and find all that I want. My single purpose of finding the truth offers all that I want to me. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. That is today's reading. Today, 3 reminders. We'll do one focus on this lesson. We will do a nice little meditative session on this lesson after I read the notes. And then if you can remember, sometime around noon, 1 o'clock, take 10 minutes and come back to this state. And then sometime around 5 or 6 or before you go to sleep, take another moment. Come back to this state. Remember, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth today. All right, I got my reminder set. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for coming here. Christine, happy birthday. I see that little red balloon down there. It means you've been here a whole year in Clubhouse. Congrats. And I'm glad you're all here. So with no further ado, here's the notes to lesson 131. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. But does the ego's thought system actually seek the truth? Nailed it, Tom. That's it. All right, let's get that stuff out of the way. The ego is the master of the imperfect question. Remember the example of the imperfect question. Please answer the question with either a yes or no. In the last 6 months, have you finally stopped beating your spouse? Either answer results in your damnation. Your ego does not seek the truth. Instead, your ego seeks proof that its false beliefs about God, you, and love are. The ego then asks you to correct a problem that never existed. False assumptions cannot be made true, so that your ego can solve a problem that never existed in the first place. The problem is a creation of your ego's own imagination. Yet this is the goal your ego created for this world to solve. The ego seeks to solve a problem that never existed by first making the problem real, so that the ego can solve the false problem. Fictitious, that's the word, fictitious problem. My goodness gracious. The ego seeks to solve a problem that never existed by first making the problem real, so the ego can solve the fictitious problem. The ego's plan is insane. Why not correct the false assumptions and allow the fictitious problem to disappear into the nothingness from which it arose? The Holy Spirit has a different approach to solving fictitious problems. Thank goodness. The Holy Spirit's plan simply questions the false assumptions and lets the truth reappear. The false problems that your ego's world was designed to solve now become the means for learning and accepting the truth about God, you, and love. The ego's goal of making the false true is useless and meaningless. Such a goal is impossible to achieve. By following your ego's wishes, you only delay, deceive, and prevent your mind from seeking the correct solution that can recover the happiness and peace that is your true reality. When you believe that the ego's plan can actually work, you mistake activity for progress towards your goal. You fail to realize that you are seeking happiness in a dream of separation that is an effect of the problem. By refusing to question the assumptions that your ego's dream rests upon, you remain trapped in seeking answers within the dream of separation itself. The dreamer's beliefs are the source of the problem. correct the mind of the dreamer, and the problem of the dream automatically fades away. You cannot solve the problem within the dream itself. Instead, go to the source of the problem, which is your allegiance to your ego's thought system. Time is the measure of change, but what is the egoic thought system trying to change? The ego believes that paradise has been lost and needs to be recovered. The ego insists that heaven is something that belongs in your past or in your future, but is not obtainable based on your current state of affairs. Happiness or heaven belong to those who are either perfect, whole, and complete, or have earned their redemption, and the ego does not see you in this light at all. Time is the grand illusion of the ego's mind. Time is an invention of the split mind and was designed to hide the reality of heaven, that is the eternal, and therefore is accessible here and now. Your ego believes that God is not a God of unconditional love, that God did not create you perfect, whole, and complete, that you have sinned, that God has condemned you, and now you must do penance to earn salvation back. Because of this, the world your ego imagines is either a refuge from God's vengeance or a place in which you can earn your redemption in the future. Either viewpoint prevents you from the truth that God is unconditional love and has never judged you. The truth is that you remain as God created you, perfect, whole, and complete. God's will is changeless and is unaffected by your ego's belief in lack, limitation, and separation. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth that you are the effect of a God of unconditional love. Heaven is only one decision away. Failure can only occur when you seek answers to the imperfect question that your ego asks. It's impossible to make the false real. Your ego's goal is to seek and never find. Change your goal from seeking to make egoic illusions true to accepting God's will of heaven for you. God's will is now, without the past and wholly futureless. Time is a great illusion that heaven belongs in your past or in the future and therefore cannot be obtained right now. But this is not the case. The ego and its dream world that attack and deny the true nature of God is not real. God did not create the dream of separation. Your fears did. God is only love, and like begets like. You remain sinless, just as God created you. Your ego's belief that you have somehow lost your divine inheritance or changed God's will is impossible. Drop your egoic thought system and accept the Holy Spirit's thought system, and you cannot fail. It is impossible to make the false true. It's equally impossible to make the true false. Seek only the truth, and you cannot fail. Today's question: were you taught or do you believe that heaven belongs either to your past or future? It is the belief that heaven does not belong in your now that prevents you from exchanging time for eternity. None of us are locked in that prison anymore. Thank you all for being here this morning. Good morning. I hope you're having a great morning so far. I know I've heard from Adriana that she is in a wonderful spot and can hear but maybe can't share. I just want everybody to know she says good morning to y'all. And if anybody is interested in coming up and sharing, feel free to raise your hand. I'll turn this off and on real quick. And then I'm going to trust that everything is taken care of and lead us into our first meditation for the day. Remember, try and do another one of these around lunchtime and another around dinner time or before you go to bed. Today, let's get back to heaven right in the present moment. Our meditation is our gateway back to this. And quite literally, it is the way for you to slip back into perfect harmony with the entire universe. At some point, as we are on this path, we will have the awakening where we finally come into the presence of God. Let's take a moment to focus on the life inside of us, that life force buried deep inside of us that as soon as we tap and open becomes the brightest thing in the universe. That part of us that is wholly part of God. That part of us that embodies the fragment of God inside of us that we can't lose. There's nothing that could ever be taken away. You can't give it away. It's safely yours forever, as long as you have consciousness. It is consciousness. It is. So, today, gravity draws us close to Mother Earth. Let's extend our energy down and remember we're rooted in this planet, protected in this Garden of Eden. Be grateful for that chance to play with life, to be alive today. No one can fail who asks to reach the truth. Failure is all about you, while you seek for goals which cannot be achieved. You look for permanence in the impermanent, for love where there is none, for safety in the midst of danger, immortality within the darkness of the dream of death. Who could succeed where this contradiction is the setting of his searching and the place to which he comes to find stability? Goals which are meaningless are not attained. There is no way to reach them, for the means by which you strive for them are meaningless as they are. Who can use such senseless means to hope through them to gain in anything? Where could they lead? And what can they achieve that offers any hope of being real? Pursuit of the imagined leads to death, because it's the search for nothingness. And while you seek for life, you ask for death. You look for safety and security, while in your heart you pray for danger and protection for the little dream you made. Yet, searching is inevitable here. For this you came, and for this will you surely do the thing you came for. But the world cannot dictate the goal for which you search unless you give it power to do so. Otherwise, you're still free to choose a goal that lies beyond the world and every worldly thought, and one which comes to you from an idea relinquished yet remembered, old yet new, an echo of a heritage forgot, yet holding everything you really want. Be glad that search you must. Be glad as well to learn you search for heaven and must find the goal you really want. No one can fail to want this goal and reach it in the end. God's Son cannot seek vainly, though he try to force delay, deceive himself, and think that it's hell he seeks. When he's wrong, he finds correction. When he wanders off, he's led back to his appointed path. No one remains in hell, for no one can abandon his Creator, nor affect his perfect, timeless, and unchanging love. You will find heaven. Everything you seek but this will fall away, but not because it has been taken from you. It will go because you don't want it. You will reach the goal you really want as certainly as God created you in sinlessness. Why wait for heaven? It is here today. Time is the great illusion. It's past or in the future. Yet this could not be if it is where God wills his higher Son to be. How could the will of God be in the past or yet to happen? What he wills is now, without a past and wholly futureless. It is as far removed from time as is a tiny candle from a distant star, or what you chose from what you really want. Heaven remains your one alternative to this strange world you made and all of its ways, its shifting patterns and uncertain goals, its painful pleasures and its tragic joys. God made no contradictions. What denies its own existence and attacks itself is not of him. He did not make two minds, with heaven as the glad effect of one, and earth the other's sorry outcome, which is heaven's opposite in every way. God does not suffer conflict, nor is his creation split in two. How could it be that his Son could be in hell when God himself established him in heaven? Could he lose what the eternal will has given him to be his home forever? Let us try no longer to impose an alien will upon his single purpose. He's here because he wills to be, and what he wills is present now, beyond the reach of time. Today, we will not choose a paradox in place of truth. How could the Son of God make time to take away the will of God? He thus denies himself and contradicts what has no opposite. He thinks he made a hell opposing heaven and believes he abides in what does not exist, while heaven is the place he cannot find. Leave foolish thoughts like these behind today and turn your mind to true ideas instead. Leave foolish thoughts like these behind today and turn your mind to true ideas instead. No one can fail who asks to reach the truth, and it's truth we ask to reach today. We will devote 10 minutes to this goal 3 times today, and we will ask to see the rising of the real world replace the foolish images that we hold dear with true ideas arising in the place of thoughts which have no meaning, no effect, and neither source nor substance in the truth. This we acknowledge as we start upon our practice periods. Begin with this. I ask to seek a different world and think a different kind of thought from those I made. The world I seek, I did not make alone. The thoughts I want to think are not my own. For several minutes, watch your mind and see, although your eyes are closed, the senseless world you think is real. Review the thoughts as well, which are compatible with such a world and which you think are true. Then let them go and sink below them to the holy place where they can enter not. There is a door beneath them in your mind which you could not completely lock to hide what lies beyond. Seek that door and find it. But before you try to open it, remind yourself that no one can fail who asks to reach the truth. And it is this request you make today. Nothing but this has any meaning now. No other goal is valued now nor sought. Nothing before this door you really want, and only what lies past it do you seek. Put out your hand and see how easily the door swings open with your one intent to go beyond it. Angels light the way so that all darkness vanishes, and you're standing in a light so bright and clear that you can understand all things you see. A tiny moment of surprise, perhaps, will make you pause before you realize the world you see before you in the light reflects the truth you knew and did not quite forget in wandering away in dreams. You cannot fail today. There walks with you the spirit heaven sent you, that you might approach this door someday, and through his aid slip effortlessly past it into the light. Today that day has come. Today God keeps his ancient promise to his holy Son, as does his Son remember his to him. This is a day of gladness, where we come to the appointed time and place where you will find the goal of all your searching here, and all the seeking of the world, which end together as you pass beyond the door. Remember that today, remember often that today should be a time of special gladness, and refrain from the dismal thoughts and meaningless laments. Salvation's time has come. Today is set by heaven itself to be a time of grace for you and for the world. If you forget this happy fact, remind yourself with this. Today I seek and find all that I want. My single purpose promises it to me. No one can fail who asks to reach the truth. And that's the end of the reading a couple of times through. Hope you all are doing well here this morning. Today's lesson is a really good one for me. I've come back to this, remembering this lesson several times. Clearly didn't practice reading it enough, though. But I do feel like this is a pivotal time in the lessons. We've come past the impossibility of seeing two worlds. We're focused wholly on the truth and on heaven, where we hope to be. And so I'm going to take this question of the day and paste it over in the chat. Can't wait to hear how things are going with you. Hope everybody's in a good spot. Thanks for being here.
I think I agree with you, Lee, that this is a pivotal, lesson in that it really is trying to clarify what the problem is, and that the problem is our own egoic beliefs about ourselves, and trying to this I'm going to say is maybe related to or becomes what we might call the authority problem, is that is our will, our desire to be something other than as God created us, perfect, whole, and complete. Does our will have the ability to change the truth of how we were created and somehow override how God created us? That somehow we have an effect, has the ability to change its source. And that's really an issue of the authority problem. Can we make the true false? And in our egoic mind, we believe that we can, because we have created a bunch of false assumptions about ourselves. The first being that somehow we're separate from our source, that we have somehow lost our divine inheritance. And in that belief, we've tried to transform or recreate our source, which is a God of unconditional love, and tried to make that into what our ego now believes must be a God of judgment and a God that has condemned us. And that's the uh, cause or the start of our descent into fear. This belief that we somehow could sin, or that we could cause God to kick us out of the Garden of Eden. That's and in that biblical story, uh, we never could be uh, barred from heaven. It was just our belief that we were separate, and that in reality, heaven is always available to us, heaven being the truth. We cannot change what we truly are. We remain perfect, whole, and complete. That's your spiritual DNA. And although you can pretend that you're something else, you can pretend that it's like the boy pretending that he's a dog, that cannot change our DNA of being a human being, that pretense. So ultimately, all that we have to do is realize that the problems that we envision are not solvable problems, because those problems are created in our own mind and are fictitious. They don't really exist. And this lesson is ultimately saying that we're all guaranteed to wake up. Why? Because God's will is that we are perfect, whole, and complete part of that one self, and that we can deny that truth, but ultimately that denial cannot change the truth, and that we all must reawaken to that. And that's what the Holy Spirit is gently doing, is gently reawakening us from our dream that we could be something other than as God created us, perfect, whole, and complete, part of the oneness of all that is. So it's only our denial that appears to create the problem. It comes from our mind. The solution is in our minds. All that we have to do is accept the love of God and realize that only our ego judged and only our ego pretends that somehow we have the ability to transform a God of unconditional God into a God of conditional love. And that's what this world is designed to try and generate, this idea that there's a conditional love, that we could be, that there could be something opposite than unconditional love. And conditional love is just a form of fear. Thank you.
Tom, this was today's reading of your notes on this particular lesson were just spectacularly done. And I really want to just applaud you for that. It's this topic is such a hard one at first to even grapple with, because this book has the nerve to tell us that everything that we've ever thought about reality is wrong. Everything that we ever felt was not, but everything that we ever thought was wrong. The reasons that we thought this happened and that happened. 2 days ago, on Monday night, there was a news show, Rachel Maddow, and she told the story of what had just happened on the day that Russians were supposed to celebrate everything, and everything's going to be, well, it celebrates a past event of success and so on. What actually happened was that 2 hackers in Russia took down the actual proposed state version of reality, and they told the truth. And they blasted it. It only was up about 2 minutes or so, came down right away, but it was preserved in the internet history. Interesting, because to me that internet history is kind of like the Akashic record for us. And what happened was, it said, the headline said, Putin did this and Putin did that, and he killed so many people, and he's destroyed Mariupol, and it went on and on. And it blatantly called the tyrant out for what he had done and made him accountable. Accountability is something that the news likes to talk about these days, and our journalists do a fairly good job of it. But these 2 hackers, young men, were not even afraid to do what they did in Russia. They said who they were. They stated their facts. And they made up a whole bunch of, actually, they made up some of the headlines and remade what was actually being projected from a source of just lies, lies, and more lies. This reflects what's going on in our minds and hearts and lives, because we have this speaker that goes in our mind that we hear that says, this is the truth, this is the truth, patriots are doing this, and so on and so on and so on. You're not a patriot if you don't blah, 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 blah. That's just like the ego. It is the ego. But there are 2 hackers in Russia. Well, they're not in Russia anymore. They've left. They're looking for a new job and probably some lawyers. But they weren't afraid to just tell the entire truth. And they did it. I think that her Monday night Rachel Maddow's Monday night show was a real breakthrough. And as today's lesson says, a tiny moment of surprise, just like I've had, you've had, perhaps, will make you pause before you realize the world you see before you in the light reflects the truth you knew and did not quite forget in wandering away in dreams, like the Putin massacre that he's just finished doing. That's the way it was. That's the way it's been. This was an inflection point, a tipping point in this world, I think, that on the day that he was supposed to celebrate with all kinds of new statements, he didn't say anything. He just did his regular speech. He didn't proclaim that he was going to conquer the world or conquer this or conquer that, or this part of the Ukraine or that part of the Ukraine. The person who cuts my hair, the few that I have left, is from the Ukraine. She's right here in Raleigh, but that's where she came from. And I was there the other day and asked her if how it has affected her, and she just couldn't speak about it. It was not good. I don't know any facts. I don't know. She could not tell me. These two hackers found the courage to simply speak the truth. And every one of us has just that much courage. We all have the courage to speak the truth. Calmly, peacefully. It's what we're called to do in the world we live in by our Constitution, those of us that are in America. And I see things possibly changing here too, because even our president has made some changes in the way he's going to support the war. I really think it was a tipping point 2 days ago, because the tyrant was made accountable. And there's a tyrant inside us too. It's called the ego. And everything it's promised, I'm still waiting for. But the things that I had always hoped for are starting to come true for me. And I once again, I see how the lessons that I read every day, and I hope this, and I think this is true for many of you, seem to reflect what's going on in our life in some fashion or other. And we say this often, and I think today's lesson is a perfect example. Things are changing, and we can finally get to know the truth. Even if Google sometimes looks like, or Wikipedia sometimes looks like the Akashic records are supposed to be, it's all there. The real truth is there. We can really see it and discern between the truth and the garbage. And finally, many other people in the world are going to be able to see the truth from which they were mesmerized by a tyrant and told to believe, oh, don't believe that stuff. That's just not the truth. Listen to what I say on Twitter or something. It's going to be very interesting going forward. I'm very excited about the direction in which the world is now going to be able to start moving, because two people had the courage to speak their truth. They changed every single headline that was supposed to go up on national TV to what actually has happened during the last 75 days. So I'm excited about that. That's a big maximal way of looking at everything. But in my own personal life, things are also starting to get better and better and better. And I hope the same for all of you. So I'm going to turn the mic over to anyone who's interested in speaking. Janine, Tamara, we've missed you. Glad you're back. Michael?
Good morning.
Good morning, Janine.
How are you, Bob? That was, you know what? I
I'm
must
so fine
confess.
today.
Yes, you sound like it. I have to confess I'm not a news person at all. Um and I missed it.
It's on my
Um
Facebook page if you want to go looking for it. It was so good that I decided I wanted to preserve it. It's the actual video YouTube of Rachel Maddow's show. So if you want to see that, you can go to my Facebook page.
all right, thanks for that cuz I love
Sure.
Rachel Maddow and when I do listen to
Hmm.
news, I prefer listening to the truth. She's one of those people that'll cut right through the crap. So I'm going to do that. It sounds like it was something very pivotal.
It
And
was, and she interviewed the editor of the New Yorker, which is an incredible magazine, and he handled Russia for many years and knows it very well. It I won't say anymore because the her show was just great. I think you'll enjoy it.
thank you
Go
for
ahead.
that.
Sure.
This is one of those lessons it's just I'm kind of speechless. I'm just kind of marinating on it. Just when you think it can't get any better with the course, a Course in Miracles, it does. And yeah, like Bob, I appreciate your notes, Tom. And I don't know, you must be channeling or something when you were writing, but really, really good stuff. But I don't have much to add other than that. I'm just grateful to be here and grateful to be a part of this and this awakening. Thank you.
Sure. Rainbow,
In,
you have something to
yeah,
add? Oh,
in
go ahead, Tom.
regards to yeah, in regards to what Bob said, I think that we need to be aware that in our uh, world, we're constantly being bombarded by people that claim to know the truth, or and what they typically have hidden deep down is a particular agenda, and their goal is to convince you that their truth is everybody's truth. And so we need to always go within and uh, check with our higher self as to what is uh, the truth for us, because uh, if we are not open to the idea of questioning everything that we hear, we'll think that there are pink elephants because anyone can present all the evidence to support that or make it up. So, we've got a higher self to check with your feelings. This situation here, I mean, in regards to this lesson, we have to realize that this is not our home, and that God has placed within us that higher self, the Holy Spirit or whatever, to get us back to the truth, and to not just accept what we've been told about ourselves. Because if you do, you'll be trapped in the belief that you are a sinner, that you are not as God created you. And it's that uh, brainwashing that we refuse to question. That is the problem. So whenever you listen to the news or whatever, and Janine, I think you probably are better off. You say you're not that into the news, but whenever you listen, you need to realize that most news today is just a form of propaganda. And you've got the Soviet, well, no longer the Soviet Union, but Russia. If you can control the information that you provided, or that you set out to anybody, you can get them to believe anything. And that's been proven over and over again. And so you need to always trust yourself, know that you have that inner guide. And whenever you mentioned about channeling, that basically what in regards to these lessons, that's what I kind of did. I just opened myself up to the Holy Spirit and said, what would you want me? And just surrendered and listened to the voice inside. So always listen to your truth, because God didn't create any junk, and you know the truth. It's within you. You just have to get rid of all that crap that we've layered over the truth. Inside you, you are a golden Buddha. And it's all that crap, that our belief system, that's saying that we're not perfect, whole, and uh, complete, that gives us the illusion that we're something other than what we are not. You start peeling that away, and you'll find that golden Buddha within you. That's what you are. Thank you.
And I want to say this, particularly since you just reminded me of it, Tom, that the one or two sentences that were in your notes that really jumped out at me. You just repeated it again. The First of all, the ego doesn't seek the truth, and you said, and the thing you said is that it seeks proof of what it wants to think, of what it wants the world to be, of what it wants the truth to be. It simply goes out there and seeks proof. Now, the funny thing about lawyers, I learned from my father, who was a doctor of jurisprudence, and it happened way long ago. I was in high school, and I was supposed to debate whether or not China should be admitted to the UN. And I, like any other kid who wanted some help, I asked my father, "Well, what do you think I ought to? Which side should I take?" I had a choice. And his answer was the most profound thing that I still remember, and I've said it a number of times. He said, "Oh, it doesn't matter, Bob. Pick any side. We'll win anyway." Lawyers, unfortunately, sometimes have to do that. They're getting paid for one reason, not to necessarily seek the truth, but to prove to you that their version is true, because that's what they're being paid to do. They're not the philosophers, they're lawyers. That doesn't mean all lawyers are bad. It doesn't mean all lawyers are good. All I'm saying here is, I love the way you put it, that the ego does not seek the truth, it simply seeks to prove to the rest of us that it has the right information and it's true. And we all know what connecting the dots is about. When someone is lying to us, they have connected their own series of dots in their own special way. And they think that that proves that what they're saying is true. You can take, it's like cherry picking. We've heard that phrase. It's the same idea. And when something doesn't feel inside you, it's your, in this case, your Holy Spirit, higher power, saying, I'm not too sure about what that guy's saying. When you have that kind of feeling, unravel the dots that it has connected, and you'll find the simple truth, which Tom says so beautifully over and over to us, so that we remember that we were created perfect, whole, and complete. And our country was put together really well by some very well-meaning people, really smart people. And anything to the contrary, any ideas to the contrary, are simply a bad connection of dots. So let's connect our own dots and have a much better day. Thanks. Who else would like to come up and say a few words here?
Well, I have a thought. Um, it's coming from yesterday
Mm-hmm.
about, our ideas about just we were talking about the motherly, bear in us, the one that doesn't want to be replaced. And I was thinking about, divorce even. Like we were told that divorce is bad, when actually, it's like we bought into someone else's belief, really, because when we decided to get divorced, it was because we were trying to be more sovereign in our choices, I guess, or in our seeing some more experiences. And I'm not like saying it has to happen, but I don't think it's a problem either. And I think that um, because what it is that we've thought that it was bad, and what we were really afraid of, it seems to me anyway, that what I seem to really be afraid of was of the unknown. Once again, it was the unknown about after this way of life changed, what would it bring? That was actually the fear. But the fact that I wanted a divorce was actually um, really worked for me,
Right.
because because it brought me to a place of like where I made the decision, the choice to just go it on my own for whatever reasons, to learn more than likely. So I think that, whose like beliefs are we following, our own or anyone else's? And like that's just, to me, part of like the like you know what I mean, like the idea that we can choose, and that it's just a navigation. Anything that comes our way, it's not like we could criticize and judge the idea of divorce, but what we're not really understanding is underneath it all, what the fact is that it was being judged by who, because what was the real purpose for doing it is not to be judged. It's not to do something wrong. It's not to get. It's a different thing underneath it all. I feel, at least for me, it was a kind of a turning point to create a different life that I was looking for, something
I'm
different.
grateful for mine.
I am too, and I perceive it as not being, none of the people involved with me are fine with it too. I mean, like we all, like, you know what I mean? Like, we learned so much from it. And yeah, anyway, I was just thinking about all that. I don't know where that all came from, but I'm sure it got triggered from all of discussions since I've
Yeah.
all these
This
discussions in my own head. Since anybody
this
as
idea
well is hearing everybody. Yeah.
I
this
think some
idea
of the
that you mentioned of fear of the unknown, uh, that's such a powerful fear that most people would prefer to continue to be miserable because they know that reality, and the fear of the unknown is more scary than being continuously miserable and suffering. Thank you.
And that's what stops all of us. It's always the fear of the unknown that seems to, like, or I don't know about stop, but that's what makes us hesitate before we make a move and go on learning. I don't know. It's just, yeah, that's what it was for me. I gotta say that's what it was for me. And now I just say, because we were in a room last night called it was about the leap of faith, and that got me thinking a lot, because when you take a leap of faith, that's a little bit, to me, I don't really need to do that. I did that a lot of times, and now I see that it's a little more focused on what I want, not what I'm afraid is going to happen. You know what I mean?
If you can
yeah, talk
accept
about leaf.
this lesson
Oh,
as if you can accept this lesson that
good job.
ultimately we must awaken to the truth, and that our truth is that we must, using religious terms, all make it to heaven, that we're guaranteed, the fear of the unknown is dissipates because the known is that we're all going to make it to heaven and we're all on our own perfect path. Thank you, and I'll shut up.
Actually, it can be
Don't never
abused.
shut up.
I'm sorry. Leap of faith. I have, um, like I said a little bit earlier, I got back to Facebook because I came across this picture of a woman starting to run about 10, maybe 20 feet from a bridge, which was starting to open up. You know, the bridges, I forget what they call they open up in the middle because a boat has to go through.
A drawbridge?
Yes. And she ran up one side as it was going up. It was about a 30-degree rise already. And she jumped across. It was at least, I'm going to say 15 feet. And she made it. As she made that leap of faith, I don't think it was just on the spur of the moment. I hope she had figured that out and planned it, and she was a long distance jumper in high school or whatever. But that was a leap of faith like I've never seen. And this is the idea of divorce. There's a whole. We've talked about it in this place a lot for a number of good reasons. But all it is really is a switch with bodies. We are moving on and evolving in our minds and in our spirits. And when, like any child who's growing up, sometimes you put down the old toys and you pick up new toys. And I know that can be misinterpreted, but what I'm saying is that we move on to needing different people in our lives and really different spiritual backing and people that can support us. If we're not getting that, why would we want to continue? So it makes sense. And spiritually, it makes sense because we know that we're not our bodies. We're all part of one big spiritual God that wants us only to love each other. So that's my extra thought there. Thank you.
Yeah. This makes me think of a statement that I used to contemplate, that the truth is elusive, and it's because we're always bombarded with other people's truths or what they perceive as the truth. And Andy, with like divorce, I guess we could think about so many things going on in society, like the Roe v. Wade, that whole situation where you have the right to lifers and then you have the pro-abortion people, and what's the right truth. That's a really heavy topic for a lot of people, but for me, my truth is that each woman has her own, it's her body, even though it seems really like an awful thing. I don't like the idea of abortion, but it is a choice for some people. It's a truth that woman has to face and deal with, between her and God. And it's not to me, up to the country to make that decision. But we could go on and on about that one. It's a difficult one. It's funny how this came up. I just remembered last night I was talking to my son about my contractor. He's this guy again coming up, and he's in my life still. And how he likes to portray himself as like, he's the only one that can do the job. And he's really good at it. He's like, oh, I can do this, and you're not going to be able to find anybody else to do this particular thing, and blah, blah, blah. And my son was like, yeah, he's met people like that who we were talking about why people like to position themselves as being the only person you could depend on in a situation. You better not listen to so-and-so because I know better. And, why would someone want to do that? And we're just going over that. And I thought, yeah, why do people do that when obviously there are many other people on the planet who can do what they do and that you could depend on? It's kind of, I guess, an insecurity.
It's absolutely insecurity. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, where they just want to.
Who would want to be the only one, too? Like,
Yeah, like, come on, dude. Really? They just want your confidence and to put up that false image of being better than or the only one. And but we see it all the time because it's just not true. So, and that's my own little experience. I could go on about my contractor, but he's an interesting guy, but I could see right through it now. And he does it a lot. When I thought about it, he likes to puff himself up and make himself seem like he's doing more than he is. And not that he didn't do something, but I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of just part of the demo. I get that you took out an extra chunk of wall and what it was and how difficult it was, but just so he can probably get more money for the job.
It's
And
another
so,
one of those things that Tom explains so clearly when he says, we're here to be learners, not earners. Well, let's look at what the earners are doing. They are after money. They think that is what is going to make their lives better with every single penny and a tenth of a penny. And they're now in doing Bitcoins, and it's going to reach $150 trillion and all this crap that we read. It's all about money, 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 earning, and figuring out the way to work the system. Yesterday, 2 days ago, which was a big turning point in my life, I talked to a potential supporter in our Liberian deal who was asking me if I could do something else besides that in Africa. He said, I hope I'm not revealing something I'm not supposed to say. He wants to take all of the Bitcoin world and make it gold based. Not only that, he wants a new mint built that can give gold coins out for representing their Bitcoin, and I'm not using the right words probably, but you understand the idea, world. And he asked me, since I'm an architect, if I could design that. I said, sure. I always say, sure. And I just go figure out, look up Google, study, Wikipedia. If there's any plans, we figure out how to do it, and then I make it work for the local place. But anybody can do anything they want, and they most prefer to earn whatever it takes, and then maybe they learn a few things on the way. And Tom says it so beautifully and clearly so many times for us. We're here to learn. That's the most important thing. That's all.
Well, I'm on the third day of my job, and I'm learning. I have a new job with GE, and I'm working hard on their design system, and it's an amazingly, beautifully well thought out and architected thing. And I mean, you can imagine, I assume. GE was formed in the 1800s. They still have their same logo from 1890. So their brand standards are top notch. And the reason that is because they have really limiting, really concise but focused ways that you can make documentation and things like that. And they make so many things, from airplane engines to stuff that goes in the hospital. And the items that are in hospitals now have little digital interfaces, and that's what I do. I make the digital interfaces. And so the part of GE that's the healthcare focused group, I'm working on their design system, the pieces that they use to build those interfaces. And we use the same pieces that we do in websites. I've been making websites for like 30 years. And there's still so much for me to learn. There's new stuff being created all the time. I have a particular set of skills that makes me really valuable to GE right now. And the people there are brilliant. It's kind of amazing to be able to work with top-notch people and have something that you can share with them while still learning a ton from everybody around you. So I consider myself incredibly lucky. And I know it's certainly a blessing that I've shared here before, but I'm certainly grateful to you all for being with me on the journey as I'm figuring life out. And I'm grateful that you're here. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning. If you haven't set a reminder for yourself so you can get in the lesson practice, please do. And thank you all for being here and joining us on this journey. I really appreciate it. I am going to sign the streams off and open us up for anything else that anybody wants to talk about.
Well, I was just going to say, talk about learning, Lee. I mean, I feel like a babe in the woods sometimes when it comes to just people because, like to me, that's like
Yeah.
that's even harder than probably learning, computer technology. It's people that just, they befuddle me sometimes because maybe because I am an only child and I grew up a little sheltered. And I guess I always approached the world with a childlike innocence, like an openness. And a friend of mine I was talking to, I was kind of not happy with myself for that, for being so loving and always expecting the best in people. And I was telling him, I need to be tougher. I need to do this and that. He's like, no. He's like, please don't lose that about yourself. Like the world needs that. And I'm like, yeah, 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 yeah. But it's, man, oh man, it makes it tough when in the business world, because in the business world, I'm a babe in the woods in a sense, because I'm doing like my sixth flip now. And if I'm in some kind of real estate group, I say, oh, I'm only on my sixth flip. And somebody said, only? They're like, that's wonderful. That's an awesome accomplishment. For some people, they haven't done any.
I'm on my
And
zeroth.
yeah. What did you say, Lee?
I said I'm on my zeroth
You're on your
flip.
zero. Yeah, I thought you said that. Yeah, and I have met people, they're like, wow, you did that. And I'm like, but yeah, we're all learning. It's just an amazing world, and I've learned to give myself grace. And when things go wrong, because they can and they will, but it's okay. It's all okay. And we're going to make mistakes, and that's all right too.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Yeah, it's actually essential. It's essential to make what we might want to call a mistake, just to just to move ahead. And I was thinking about, some people really are comfortable in, it takes all. Like, some people are real aggressive in their desires, and some people are not, or they're just comfortable with things staying the same. And really, it's all grandiose if they're truly happy. But if they're working from fear, that's where the problem is, right? Or, well, I don't know if that's even a problem, because at some point you get to where you're like sick of being afraid. So that was me. So it actually was another portal to finding out who I really was. Um, yeah, and so I know it's not like everybody's path is not the right, not everybody's as, I think that we all come in with just different, maybe, I don't even know if we come in that way, but either, yeah, maybe we do. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking we come in with a different, um, agenda, even. Let's call it an agenda, because there might be someone with, just like I said, that it's just content and very happily content, and they move slower, and they have time to smell the roses. Then there's somebody else that says, "Oh, that smells good. What's next?" And it's kind of me, and that's not the right way for everybody. Only me. So I think that I've discovered that the right way is, yeah, like Tom says, often it's our own. It's our own, and there's no one doing it wrong, and no one can tell us what our own is, but us. So that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, and you raised a good point. When it's fear-based, that makes a big difference. I know when I first started flipping, I was fearless. And my first few flips went like great. No matter what happened, I was like, yeah, let's go. And then somehow fear filtered, sneaked in or seeped in. And that's when things started getting wonky on me. And I realized that. And I was like, what are you really worried about? And when I attacked that and got rid of the fear, then things opened up again, because my awareness of the fear sharpened during this course, and I could see it and recognize it for what it was. And I'm like, oh, well, this is just a game anyway, this life thing that we do. And money, so what? Like, we're just playing all the time. And when I looked at it like that, things started flowing again. So yeah, no matter what we do, it's nice to have fear eradicated. I'm so happy I could see when I'm going in that direction, because I don't have to feel that way anymore.
But also, it was a navigation device, so it's actually been helpful in realizing that
Indeed.
maybe what went wrong was my fear. Yeah, maybe what went wrong in this whole thing is that I got too serious, and then I got, you know what I mean? I had, yeah, all these experiences that I wasn't like willing to have, I guess, you know. Um, and more confidence, like that's the thing, that's another thing, like to be confident in something now is a different, it's not an insecure place. There before, it was an insecure place. I was confident because it was like, oh wait, I got to be confident or else it won't happen. So I was missing a whole idea here, the idea that simply that it's not that you can't have confidence if you don't truly, you can't fake it. You can't fake it. You can't really fake it. I mean, you got to just buck up and see how you're creating things, and that alone will give you confidence, whether it's fear or what it is, when we realize we've created it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
going
guess for me, like when I started flipping, I did it out of sheer enjoyment, just because I desired to do it, and it looked exciting to me. And when I lost that, that's when things got, really hairy. And I realized that, wow, I lost the joy of excitement and just doing this thing. And if I'm not excited about it, then why do it? And so I had to find that again. Just the joy of creativity.
That's
But I'm getting off topic probably.
that's a great discovery. And if it wasn't joyful, why do it?
Yep.
Well, if you have an alternative, it's better to take the one that's going to bring you some joy. I want to say something now that I've hesitated to say, but since Lee's turned